cry. And I used to never, I went to the Naval Academy in Annapolis, and we were told that winners and leaders never cry, but I've learned how to do that. And I will tell you, it's a great feeling to be able to do that in front of people and not feel bad. You know, I used to think, really, that was a terrible thing. But I will tell you this, when we got started, because I was in real estate, was working for a Coldwell banker, and I discovered that I had cancer. And some of you may know this, some of you have not heard the story yet, but I discovered that I had cancer, went into the hospital, and I spent 4 or 5 years in and out of hospitals. Couldn't work for 5 years, lost everything and went bankrupt. The doctors had given me 3 to 6 months, and they said, it's spread so much that we can't radiate you. This was years ago. And we'd kill you. So we're just going to go in there and take as much as we can take, hopefully everything that you don't need. And I said, do I have input on that, you know? And I remember them saying, no, you don't, but we're going to take everything we possibly can. We're going to sew you back up. And if we didn't get everything, you better get your affairs in order. Because if it comes back, you're lucky to have 6 months. And so while I was in the hospital, one of the things that I thought of was, I want to develop, I never had a thought ever that I wouldn't make it through. Never once in my time there did I ever think that I wasn't going to live. But I will tell you what went through my mind was, I'm going to find something that brings in a cash flow. I didn't know the term residual, that was too highbrow. I said, I wanted to develop a passive income stream that was enough to cover my overhead, and all I wanted was to make $100,000 a year. Quite frankly, that's what I said. If I could make $100 grand a year, I had just, I was in the process of adopting a little girl who's now 34 years old, and I wanted to be able to spend as much time with her as I could, and so I wanted to be able to live full time. And $100,000 at that time would allow me to live full time. Remember, I'd been through bankruptcy, so I had no debt. That helped. And I learned to live within my means. I said, I want to make $100,000 a year. And I remember that the first time that we averaged $100,000 a week in revenue share was 6 or 7 years ago. And we got a check for over $400,000. The first time, we got a check for over $400,000 US for 1 month. My wife had been working full-time for Shea Homes at $40,000 a year. That 1 month was 10 years of her working full-time. And I said to her, a little before that, I said, you know, you really don't have to work if you don't want to. You know, I think we'll be okay. We're going to be all right. If you decide you don't want to do that and what you're doing, you can do whatever you want. She said, what'll I do? I said, whatever you want. And that's let me tell you this, that is a really tough question to answer when your life, when money's not an object anymore, and you've got to decide what it is you're going to do. Are you going to do something for yourself? Are you going to do something for others? Are you going to do impactful things? What is it that you want to have? And I hope that you have a spirit of giving back. I think that's a very, very important thing. And we don't talk much about the stock. And I thought the stock was meaningless, quite frankly, when I took a look at this. I tried to avoid EXP like many of you did, but then they caught you and wrestled you to the ground and said, look at this, right? Some of you work like that. It's kind of amazing, but I would not recommend that, by the way. It's not high on my list. But yeah, one of the things that I'm really super proud of, and you should have a goal, I believe, of being able to give back in some way, something that's big and impactful. I don't know what you're going to do, but I'll tell you one of the things that we did. We've done multiples of these, but we donated $1 million worth of the stock we had acquired to my high school, which is a local high school here, Coronado High School, to the bottom 20% for scholarships for the bottom 20% of the class to go to trade schools. And because those kids are just going to be left behind and they're going to be working at low-level jobs, most of them. There'll be some breakouts, of course, but most of them really need the help, and their families could not afford, they're just not college material. And the top 20% will be fine, but the bottom 20% truly need help. And I was able to convince another group called the Scottsdale Charles. Some of you may have heard of them, some of you don't. But they're an organization, philanthropic organization in Scottsdale that controls the spring training for the San Francisco Giants. And they get all the income from that. And they're looking around for places to be able to do good with that money. And they matched by million to the school so that we're going to be able to provide over 1,000 scholarships for kids over the next 10 or 15 years. And that's a really, really, really big deal. And I never thought, if you just take the last 5 years of money that we've received just from recruiting, is somewhere between $30 and $40 million. Someone says, I don't know if that works. I can tell you personally it does. And that we figured over the next 10 years, which would have been Jen's normal work life, her being at retirement age, we would have brought in, conservatively, it looks like it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 million in revenue share by the time she's 65. And you think about that, $1 million a year is somebody working $50,000 a year for 20 years. And that's 100 times that. It's really, it's the power that's unbelievable and impactful is what it is. And one of the things I'd like to talk to you about someday would be making the money is one thing, keeping it is another. In fact, that's the whole talk right there. Making it is one thing, keeping it is another. And then multiplying it, doing good with it, and then passing it on to the next generation and creating what we call generational wealth. That is, in my opinion, extremely hard to do if all you're doing is selling houses, selling properties, to create generational wealth, to create an income that's massive that will go to your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids, and beyond, to be able to create some of the larger wealth going. If my wife lives to be 90, that's 35 more years. There's another 120 million on top of that, by the way, just from having recruited a few folks. The power of duplication is beyond comprehension. Mm-hmm. It is the 9th, 10th, and 11th, what is it, wonder of the world? The power of duplication. So I'm going to talk to you just a little bit. One of the little things I want to talk to you about is a little example. And then I'm going to talk about a little bit about what I did and how to talk to people, if you're interested in learning how to do that. I do need to know how to do that quite well, actually. And I can tell you this, texting was a big deal for me. I mean, sending multiple texts was a major deal. I mean, multiple people at the same time. With the hit of one button, it went to multiple people. It was like, oh, I've hit the lottery. This is like unbelievable. And that's technology-wise. So I didn't have technology. I didn't have AI. I didn't have marvelous, wonderful thing. I will tell you, the most houses I ever sold in my life in 1 year, I think may have been just under 30. My goal was to sell 1 or 2 houses a month. And I had to do 10 listing appointments to get 2 because I was not all that wonderful. I didn't have a team. I was not technical. I didn't know all the language. It was all up to my wonderful personality, which I have been told that I was a serious asshole for a long time in my life. In fact, we have a big plaque in my office at home that has this lady cuddling apparently her husband and saying, there, I'm sorry I called you an asshole. I thought you knew. So I had a lot to overcome. But I had a big why. My why was I wanted freedom. I wanted to be around my daughter, who I might not live to see her grow up. And I wanted to develop that. I didn't want her to suffer. That was a huge why. Nothing has gotten in the way of that. To this day, nothing has gotten in the way. That was the biggest why I've ever had. And it continues to be so. So one of the things that I will talk about, just real quickly, And you know, when you talk about how do you talk to people, this is one of the things that I talk to people about, okay? And that is, let's see, where's that blue marker?
Right there, right behind the board.
Oh, right, okay. And I hope these are those things I'm looking for, but. Can you guys hear me if I put this down?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that all right?
Would you like to let go?
No, I'm good, unless I need it. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We're good. What does it take, what would your life be if you had $200,000 a year?
We want to get the video on this. We want to get the sound. Can we throw the
All
volume
right,
in 1
all right.
second? Rob,
I
will
did
throw
this
in.
for Monica, and we have a copy of this already.
We're done already. How's that?
All right, good.
That's how quick it was.
Good enough. Woo! Hey! This is Arizona, ain't California, man.
We call that a quickie.
Now, less than 1% of the people in the U.S., which means less than 1% of the people in the world, make $200,000 a year full-time, let alone passive. Imagine being able to make $200,000 a year passive. What do you have to do to have that? Well, you have to have $4 million in some investment that's bringing in at least 5% a year. 5% of 4 million is $200,000. You've got to have 4 million put away that you're getting 5%, which by the way is not guaranteed, hardly anywhere. If you can get 10% or 15 or 12, there's a lot of risk involved. Sometimes that goes away. 5%, right? Which means in order to make, this is amazing, to make 4 million, you're going to have to actually make, to put 4 million away, you're going to have to make 6.67 million pre-tax. Right? Because at that kind of money, you're going to be paying 40% income tax. I know, because I pay that. And I have a team of investment counselors, and you have to have a certain net worth before they will even talk to you. And it's a team of investors, accountants, lawyers. We have what we call a family office, right? Which is only for high net worth individuals, which I was not when I first joined EXP just 9.5 years ago. This has all happened in the last 9.5 years. Okay, just to think about it, it's kind of incredible. Now, in order to have 6.67 million in pre-tax money before you pay the tax on it, that leaves 4 million that you can get 5% on that gets you 200,000, you have to make 8.33 million if you're on an 80-20 split with your company. Most of the realtors out there are on an 80-20 split or worse. In fact, you talk to people that are with a company that also charges a royalty or franchise fee, that could be worse than that. Most of them are paying 5 to 8% in royalties on top of their split. They say, oh, I'm a 90-10. You're not really. You've got an 8% royalty fee, franchise fee. So you've got to make 8.33 million, 20% you give to the brokerage. Now, in order to do that, to make that kind of money, if you're making $100,000 a year, 100K a year, it's going to take you 83 years to do that. If you're making $200,000 a year, it's only going to take you 41 years. Now, the only problem with that is you still have your cost of living, your cost of life, which means this number does not include food, housing, your cars, if you have any, your skateboards, kids, insurance. Kids are very expensive. Health and health care, education, college, vacations. As a realtor, you know how to increase your business, right? We all know that. Plan a vacation.
Oh, yeah.
Go and actually go on one. All of a sudden, everybody wants a house. Your marketing expenses, etc. That's what it takes to create $200,000 a year passive. Which, by the way, most people, if you put that on the wall somewhere, we don't have tape.
It sticks.
Okay. Or, so I talked to somebody about this, just in conversation. Let's talk about your life. Let's talk about how much money you make. Let's talk about what if. I love playing the what if games. That's one of my favorite things to play with people. What if you won a mini lottery that pays you $5,000 a month? What would you do? What would you do? How would it affect you? Would it affect you at all? What would you do with it? Let's just play with it right now. What would you, if you had an extra $5,000 a month, what would it do? And most people say, oh, no, I'd invest it. Like you're already doing that. Right? So how are you doing on your $4 million, by the way? Putting it away. How are you doing on that? Well, I really haven't started, but I'm going to get going soon. That's what I hear most of the time from people. So I say, what if? What if you had an extra $10,000 a month? What would that do for you? What if you had an extra $10,000 a month? They can hardly imagine. What if you had an extra $4,000 a week, or $16,000 a year, or $200,000? I'm sorry, $16,000 a month, or $200,000 a year coming in? What would? Now, when they get to that point, most people are saying, well, I might do a little less of my job. I might want to do some traveling a bit. I may want to get a different car, maybe get some new tires at least. Maybe I want to. And they start thinking about it. I said, so let's talk about how you can do that. And I show them that. I said, this is what it takes to make $200,000 a year passive. How are you doing on that $4 million? Most people aren't. And they look at that. I said, so it sounds like you're never going to have the what if. If we call that a dream circle, all the things you want are outside your circle, because your income circle is little. I love doing that. I love when I talk with people, what if? They tell me what it is and what it is, and I draw a big old circle around it. And then I say, the problem is in your life, and I draw a little circle in the center. I said, that's your income circle. And unless you do something different, you're never going to have those things that you want to have, which sound like you really want them, if you really do. And a lot of times I will call them up and ask them, were you really serious about what you were saying, or are you just passing gas? I mean, I tell them that. I like humor. I like movement, either towards me or away. I don't care, one or the other. Run away, that's good, because I'm looking for people with the right attitude. I'm looking for people with the right energy. I don't care if they're in real estate or not. I have 2 guys that I enrolled in the EXP who've never sold a house, didn't even have licenses, got their license just because they could recruit, and both of them have over 2,000 agents in their team. Neither one of them are doing what they were doing before, because they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year now that they never imagined they could ever do that. One of them is making more monthly now than he used to make annually. You think he was a corporate guy. So you don't have to. You just have to find, in my opinion, you have to find someone who has a big enough why. If their why's not big enough, they're going to quit on you. They're going to quit on themselves. And I tell them this, I'll never quit on anybody. You'll quit on yourself before I'll quit on you. I've never quit on anybody. And I said, you also can't outwork me. I've yet to have anybody outwork me, of course, till I met Brent. Brent's the first guy I honestly think outworks me, because I'm ambitiously lazy. I like leverage. And if I can have 20 guys like Brent out there rocking and rolling, I don't have to. And I remember my mentor once told me, if you're frustrated with where you are in your business, bring 20 more people in to get to where you are. They'll be frustrated and you won't be anymore. I've never forgot that.
I'm not that frustrated about it.
No, but you've got a few folks who are. Yeah, it gets big enough, all right? Or, you're going to love this, or in 3 years, get this, in 3 years with EXP Real Estate, using its revenue share program, right? We can do that in 3 years instead of 40 years or 80 years, if you're really serious about wanting to do that. And here's how you do that. And do this in 3 years. You want to enroll 10 agents a year for 3 years so that you have 30 agents personally enrolled on your first tier. You've got 30. You're 1 a month. My goal's always been 2 a month. I have only done it in the last 2 years because when my health got better and I said, you know what, I'm going to prove that it can still be done. Because some people will say, I think it's too long, we're too late. I think the opportunity is gone. It was there. You got it at the right time. You were early. You were lucky. I hear that all the time. And I said, no, I could be airdropped anywhere and develop the same thing again because it's all here. And it's all here. And I know what I know about me, and I know what I know about EXP. And I know what I know about people. And I'm looking for people who are looking for us. You've heard me say that 1,000 times. I'm not going to wrestle them down to improve themselves. If they don't have a big why, they don't have the right energy and the right attitude, I don't want to talk to them. I don't care how many houses they sell. They're like poison to me. I don't want them around me. I want nothing but can-do attitude, will do. Are you coachable, teachable? Are you an old dog? And you can't learn tricks, or can you learn some new things? I have a doctor that was our chiropractor, who I kept getting adjusted, and I would say to her every time I went in there, I said, how come you're making these guys you're working for rich and not doing something for yourself? And finally she said to me, what are you saying? I said, you are smart, you are good, you are quick at what you do, you're intelligent, you're motivated, you work harder than me, and I'll bet I make 100 times what you make. I said, I can teach you to do what I do if you really want to help your family. And she said, let's get together and talk. She was not a real estate agent, she was a chiropractor. Well, this last year, after 3 years, but this last year, she made more part-time as a realtor. And now this is a combination of rev share and selling houses than she did as a chiropractor this year for the first time. Mm-hmm. They bought their first house together. She's got 2 kids, 6 and 4. And now they bought their first house. You think about that, how excited I am. She was not even a real estate agent. That's 3 of the people I have that I'm going to talk to you about already that were not even real estate agents. Why are you limiting yourself? There's some great people that are not realtors today.
Yeah, that's good.
You know? And I used to go looking around to spear a realtor. Go to meetings and say, hi, how are you? My name's Rob. I'm new to the area. Hi, I'm Rob. I'm new to this area. Here, right here, I'm new. How long are you from here? Or how long you been here? What do you do for a living? And you'd say what you do, and if you weren't a realtor, I'd say, well, nice meeting you, bye. And off I go. And then I had a guy who's got 2,000 people in his organization who's never sold a house, who said, well, you're asking him the wrong question, Rob. And I said, why? What do you mean? What should you ask? He said, you should ask them if they know a realtor.
It's good.
He said, do you know a realtor? And especially if they look successful. Because I look around for successful people. Why? Because the more successful a person is, they're going to know a doctor. They're going to know a lawyer. They're going to know an accountant. They're going to know a realtor. And they're going to know a house cleaner. And they're going to know a really great up-level realtor. That's why I don't talk to homeless people, because they refer me homeless realtors. And I don't want them, because their attitude's wrong most of the time. Doesn't mean they can't pull themselves out, but it's rare. And I play by the odds because I'm ambitiously lazy. I want the odds in my favor. That's why I almost never talk to new real estate agents, brand new licensees. Almost never. Depends on their energy, depends on their attitude, depends on their why. Each of them had huge, huge whys that were bigger than anything that they had done before, that they'd ever thought about before. So I said, okay, we'll do a test. I'm not going to quit on you. We'll see what can be done. So, you need to think about enrolling 1 a year. This is the program, right? And 1 a year. How many you have to show? I don't know. Doesn't matter. I don't care. You do it so 1 a month joins. 1 a month. 1 a month. 12 a year, 2 of them are going to quit, just count on it. So you're going to have 10. You do that for 3 years, you're going to have 30. Now, over those same 3 years, those 30 enroll 2 each. Just 2. In 3 years. That's not even 1 a year. Hello, do you think you can find one person in the world who thinks this deal is good? You think you can find one? Mildred? Yes? So they find 2 on your second tier. And the people on your second tier, they each find 2. That's 1/3 of a realtor a year. It's the short ones running around. You don't need big ones, just a little one will do. And they only have to sell 3 or 4 or 5 houses a year. Because now you have 120 in the first 3 tiers. Why is that important? Because in the first 3 tiers, what I have found from my numbers, with almost somewhere between 70 and 80% of the company as part of my RevShare team overall, as you said, overall, I have found that in the first 3 tiers, you average about $1,000 a year per agent. Per agent. If they sell 4 houses a year, 1 a quarter. This is not a massive producing realtor. Do you understand that? Do you understand that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
You're finding, I love this. I have probably 2,000 excellent realtors, but I've got 50 or 60 mediocre ones. 50 or 60,000 mediocre ones. But the money is made with the masses. How many agents sell 100 or 200 houses a year?
1%.
Percentage is
Less than 1.
less than 1%. How many agents sell 1 house a quarter? Way more. Right? So if you're making 1,000, you got this, 100, you got, what did I say, 120?
150.
Oh, 150.
It's actually 210, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. What is that?
210.
30 and
What is it?
60 and 90?
So 2 is 120.
Oh yeah, sorry.
120 plus 60.
See, thank you very much. Do you understand? If I can do this as dumb and as stupid as I
It was part of the play.
That was a total
am,
setup.
anybody can do this. Anybody, even you. Yeah, you with the hat, even you.
I gotta edit my reporting later.
Hey, it's
Okay.
a commercial guy, leave him alone.
Oh, no. I was commercial in the beginning. I was in commercial with Coldwell Banker. I loved it. Flew all over the country doing deals for other people. Now, so what is that? That's 200.
210.
210, sorry. Thank you very much. This is why you have erasable pens. Now, if you're averaging $1,000 per agent per year and you've got 200 agents, you did the work. These people found 2. And it actually won't be that way, but it sounds ridiculous when you tell them and talk to them about it, because one of these agents will enroll 5 or 6 and screw up all the numbers. And one will come in and put in 30, really mess up the numbers. But all you're doing is you get 1 a month for 3 years. You help them get 2 total. Every so often say, who can we talk to? Have you done any deals lately? Let's talk to the agents. And I love these conversations. Let's have coffee with the agent. And I talk to them about the $200,000 a year problem. It's an easy segue into it. They didn't realize they had a problem until I showed them that they had a problem, just like the ads on TV. You didn't know you had that problem, but there's a pill to solve it if you just take it daily.
So true.
Right? It's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
No question. So if you get, I said that you can do this in 3 years or take 80 or 30 years, so we can take that off and put that up on the wall.
And the clock right there is about 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, okay, good. Is this good stuff or what?
Yeah.
Oops, sorry. Now, my favorite thing is, the wealth chart. I developed that wealth chart that some of you have seen, some of you haven't seen, but I highly recommend you draw one for yourself. I did that because I could not get Scott Lewis to understand how this thing worked. And I was at his house in Texas, sharing and trying to explain to him how the tiers worked and how many people you had to have personally enrolled and all that kind of stuff. And he was just not getting it. So I was thinking to myself, and I stayed up most of the night, literally till like 4 or 5 in the morning, trying to think, how can I show something that if I just lay it out, he'll look at that and visually he'll go, got it, I see the flow, I see how it works, I see how everything falls in. And that's how I came up with that wealth chart. So the next morning, I said, Scott, I want to show you something. And I went through the wealth chart, just like I did on the video I did on YouTube. And he goes, oh, that makes sense, I get it right away. He got it instantly. And I didn't realize the power and impact of what I created when I did it, but I did it because I had to have it so that I could get Scott, because I knew if Scott would come in, he would do really great. I had bigger belief. And I had to drive 5 and 6 hours each way just to get to see him. And my average driving time was 4 or 5 hours to a presentation for my first year of doing this. You think about that. And one of the guys that I personally enrolled that had never sold a house, he thought this is really good because he said, no one will want to hear what I have to say. And I said, because I'm not, in real estate, I've never sold a house, I don't even have a license. I said, well, get your license. And I said, no, they're not going to want to talk to you because you don't know anything about real estate at all. But if you tell them this, and I wrote down a couple of things, if you learn how to say this in your personality, they'll want to meet me, and I'll do the talking, you just tee them up. So in the next 30 days, he teed up 40 agents. He was not even an agent. Are you motivated like that? He wanted to spend more time with his kids. That's what he told me. I want to spend more time with my kids. And I can't do it because I work nights and weekends, and that's the only time they're not in kiddie jail called school. So I really need to do that. So I said, well, if you'll set them up, I'll talk to them, and I look at it as just sowing seeds. I don't care how many people join and what your success rate is. That's not important to me. What's important to me is, do you know your numbers? How many people do you have to show this to get one person to join? Once you know that, you know what you have to do. And here's how I challenge people when they first get started. I give this to every new person that I enroll, one of my little tests, if you will. That is, as they get a piece of paper and draw 10 by 10 boxes, like, so you got 100 little squares. And I said, go show this to 100 people. Your goal is to get 100 no's in a row. I said, I'll give you $1,000 if you can get 100 no's in a row. I bet you can't do it. And I said, and if they joined, you screwed up. They joined. That's not your goal. Your goal was for them to say no. You got to say, what are you doing? I need to get 100 no's. You're not supposed to say yes. But some people will not let you walk away saying, whoa, 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 I'm interested. Tell me about this. So then, once you get someone who joins, you've got to get another whole new sheet and get 100 no's in a row from that point, because you screwed up and you got someone to join. It takes all the pressure off. I said, show it to all the stupid ones first. You know who they are. It doesn't matter. They're stupid. They're not going to join ever. It doesn't matter. You could make millions of dollars a year like me, and they will still tell you no. Because they don't think it will work. Stupid. I say, I have a saying, and I have to be very careful when I say this, but there's a fine, fine red line between stupid and ignorance. Ignorance You don't know what you don't know, and it's okay because you don't know. You just don't know. It's not your fault. But if suddenly you get the input and the information and you don't act upon it, you cross the line. And I can't have stupid around me. I can't, because the people you hang with and the books you read over the next 5 years are who you're going to become, and I don't want to be stupid like you. Thanks, but no thanks. Bye. You think I don't talk like that? Trust me, you hang around with me, I do that for everybody. So I do it. I said, listen, fine line between ignorance and stupid. Are you willing to take a chance? You know, right now you're ignorant, you're safe, you could be my friend, but you know, it could change it right away. And you know, people like to laugh, people like to show their teeth. By the way, thank you very much for that. That's true, and a lesser person would have not have told you. But I truly believed it would make a difference in your life, and it sure has. And actually, that's another thing that we do. We donate money to orthodontists or dentists, whatever the ones that do it, to fix people's teeth. Teeth. Teeth? Mices or Mises? What is it? I don't know. Right? And when you tell someone that they can go to the dentist and that everything is taken care of, we did that for a waitress one time. She just was hiding her teeth all the time, not smiling. So we actually got her to go to a dentist, had him look at it, give us a bid, and we paid for her to have her teeth done.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Changed her life. Unbelievable what can do. One small thing for one person, and she's now smiling for everybody all over. It's really amazing to do something like that. Be willing to give back. A heart of gold. You don't know who is going to join you. Your job is not to convince them. Your joint is to expose this to them so they can make a choice. It's up to them. And the thing about it is, timing is different for everybody. It really truly is not a good time for some people. I understand that. One of my best people took 5 years to decide. She had the signs, the EXP signs in her garage for 3 years to see how she would feel coming home to them. You think I'm kidding you? She worked out of her home for a year to see what it was like not going into an office every day first. She actually did better. She got more productive working out of her home because she said, I had a lot of interrupted conversations at the office. Everyone wanted to know what my deal. She was the #1 agent in her office. I said, you don't make money in your office, do you? She says, no. I said, then why do you have one? Why do you think EXP does what it does? They give you the tools to sell as much as you want. However, if once you understand the power of multiplication, of duplication, of revenue share, selling more houses, this is my opinion, I know the word will get back, is stupid. For the long-term finances of your family and the generations to come. In my opinion, there isn't anything that you can do so far, in my opinion only, than sponsor and bring in a good, producing, nice real estate agent into EXP and give them the opportunity to have what you have. I don't think there's a thing that better than you can do. You don't, and I look when I have these people come aboard, I don't see them as them. I see them as 100 agents or 1,000 agents, and I tell them, I'm looking for the next $1 million earner. When I'm talking to them, I said, I don't know if it's your it or not, but you know how you do that? This is really simple. You want $1 million? And I just say, this is great. Can you get 10 who get 10 who get 10 in the first 3 levels? Can you get 10 who get 10? If you can get 10, you can show people how to get 10 because you did it. It's no longer a theory, it's a fact. They can't argue with it. I don't know if that'll happen. I did it. It's done. It's a fact. Hello, I got 10. Shut up. They can get 10. If you get 10, you're gonna make 5 to 10,000 a year if they're producing. If they're selling 4 or 5 houses a year. If they're selling 20 or 30 or 50, you're gonna make way more than that because you're gonna max out. If you get 10 who get 10, you're gonna make 50 to 100,000 depending on their presentation. If, on their sales, their production, I mean. If you get 10 who get 10 who get 10, you're gonna make somewhere around $500,000 to $1 million depending on their production. It's easy. Get 10, you make 5 to 10. Get 10 who get 10, you make 50 to 100. You get 10 who get 10 who get 10. Anybody can get 10. Anybody can get 10. Anybody in this room can get 10. If you haven't already done it, go find someone and help them get 10. Because as soon as you help one get 10, someone else is going to say, can you help me get 10? And then you're going to have 2 or 3 of you say, whoa, we'll have to do a group meeting. We'll have to do a lunch and learn. I still do lunch and learns every week. People wonder, do you still actively do that? I say, yeah, I've got tens of thousands of agents, and I still do lunch and they say, well, how many people show up? I said, I don't know, anywhere from 2 to 8 most of the time. I'm making millions of dollars a year. I can show anything they want. I've donated more than most of them will make in their life. And they have a hard time showing up. It boggles my mind. Boggles my mind. But I still do that. But you know why I do that? Because I don't care if there's 1 or 1,000 people that show up. I'm looking for the one. I'm looking for the one. I'm looking for that 1,000 agent person that's going to affect tens of thousands of lives. And you all know, by the way, when you found the one, or one that's acting like the one, is they tell you when the next upcoming events are. Not only that, but they've already bought their tickets, and they've already booked their hotel, and they've already invited 2 or 3 other people, and they're reminding you, their leader, by the way, don't forget, this is happening, this is happening, and this is happening. We all need to go there, yes? Yes. That's when you know, and they'll go whether you go or not. Because what I found is very few people will do more than what you're doing. And as you equally said, you're a reflection, I believe it was you, you're a reflection, your people are a reflection of you. Yeah. Very seldom will you ever find a person that will do more than you. And that's why I say the goal, 30 people personally enrolled, is a road bump on the way to 100. Yeah. I said, I don't believe you're serious till you get 100. You want to make $1 million? You're not going to make $1 million enrolling one person. But if you enrolled me, you got a shot. Because I had 200 on my first level. How many thousand? 200, and then it went to like 700, and then it went to 1,000 people on the tiers. And there was plenty enough to do. Brent's got the same kind of thing. And all of a sudden, because you get paid 3 levels, 1, 2, 3, wow, you might make a ton. So actually, you know what I think right now? You can actually say you are one person away from a 6-figure residual. One person. You turn one over rock, there's going to be a realtor there. Some of you got that. Yeah, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And there's new ones being born every day. Every day. And they don't know what they don't know. And new people don't know how great this is because they haven't felt the pain. And what you're looking for is a need, want, or desire. You're looking for pain points. How you can help that out. And part of what I like to do after I have conversations with people, I almost never talk about me or what we've done or what we have. I'm constantly asking them questions and questions and questions until I can find a need, want, or desire or a pain point. And then I don't jump up and say, I got one. I'll call them back after a week or 2 and say, Bill or Carol, Bob, Ted, or Alice. Some of you aren't old enough to know what that means. The other day we were together and you mentioned this, this, and this. Were you serious about that, or were you just passing gas? Because I think I found a way to be able to address what you were talking about, if you're open. Would you like to get together for a coffee? And that's it. And I have a 3-foot rule. Everybody I get in touch with anywhere near, I say, hi, my name is Rob. I'm new to the area. And that's not lying, because I'm new to the area right here. How long have you been here? I just start talking to them. What do you do for a living? I asked somebody the other day, I go to Stretch Lab 3 days a week. And one of the guys that was stretching me, I said, how long have you been doing this? He said, 2.5 years. I said, are you as fired up today about doing this as when you first got started, your first day? You just got your license and you're ready to rock? Are you still fired up? And he said, you know what? I am. Because I feel like I'm not just stretching people, I'm helping and enriching their lives. And when they tell me this is the best hour of their week, I feel really good. That's a person I want to say, you know, I'd love to have lunch. Because their attitude is right. Now I want to see where mentally they're at. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's very much as simple as that. I think that's probably good enough. Is that good?